One late afternoon, as the sun was shining on a quiet and uneventful day, Sir Isaac Newton came to the country of Shu during the time of the Three Kingdoms. The river shimmered under an afterglow that radiated into the sky. The pier had been abandoned for an extended time, but what remained was the sound of the wind murmuring through the willows. A woman under a willows tree seemed to be waving toward the horizon to a hidden shadow of her husband on the boat. A few straw boats were clearly visible in the distance. The deserted mud road with wheel ruts furrowed by a passing chariot meandered past a hut with broken rafters that lay powerlessly collapsed by the side of the road, as if it was a causality of the aftermath of a recent war. Newton looked into the distance when he perceived a green villa that he approached with great anticipation because he hoped the location would unravel the mystery behind the hill, the history of the land and the origin of the conflicts. Walking along the stone road, the red leaves from the branches of a tree half obscure a partially exposed plaque with the inscription, Kong Ming Mao Lu. He walked further and discovered a courtyard hidden between the mountains and forest. Contemplating that Mr. Kong Ming was an extraordinary man, Newton tapped politely on the courtyard door. Newton heard a rush of footsteps, and quietly peeping out from the door, a boy slowly asked for the reason of the visitation. To call upon Mr. Kong Ming. Mr. Kong Ming is resting, sir. You can wait in the courtyard. The youngster then led Sir Newton towards a cottage. Several huts in the courtyard were situated in pattern of lines and squares with black and white figures painted on the ground that Newton tried to comprehend. On one side was an old stone well, at which time the boy had bent down and grabbed the rope with both hands to lift a bucket of water. Newton quickly approached, picked up a round elongated shaped stone to show the boy how to coil the rope around the stone that would act as a pulley to draw up the bucket with ease. The boy praised Sir Newton's wisdom. During this moment, Mr. Kong Ming had already awoken to witness the procedure. Initially, Kong Ming wanted to test the sincerity of the new visitor who had unexpectedly arrived, who acted with such intelligence and skill. For such an oddly dressed man, a pair of black bright leather boots, a delicate short suit, and the flower-shaped tie that one had never seen before. The dress alone was enough to make Mr. Kong Ming marvel. So Kong Ming proceeded to welcome Sir Isaac Newton. "May I ask the name of my honorable visitor?" Mr. Kong Ming asked. The oddly dressed man replied, "Newton. I have been engaged in scientific research at the Royal Society of England for the past many years. Now I have the opportunity to meet new people, and I come to know that Mr. Kong Ming is recognized as a wise man of China. Today, we meet Mr. Kong Ming, whose presence and accomplishments have been described as being elegant and transcendent." Kong Ming modestly replied, Here, these are but just a few trifles, such as grass boats, bow arrows, and fire-on-chain ships, for a few minor schemes and tactics to trick the enemy. It seems that Mr. Kong Ming is a man of strategies. This is true. In this era of war and conflicts, if one doesn't know tactic and strategy, one cannot survive on top. One must study the hearts of the people in depth. Human psychology is the most profound book in the world. Newton laughed. No. If we lack the pursuit of scientific truth, how can there be new light that brings changes to the dark night? How can we fly in the sky, ride on the water? How can we come to a new, more colorful life? When one looks into the starry sky, follow the falling leaves. Observe the turbulent water of the waves crashing upon the rocks. Is there no desire to explore the events? Kong Ming said, "What you said is also reasonable, but in my opinion, The sound of 1,000 arrows hitting the scarecrows, and the drums sounding and tumble of enemies' hooves as they fall, are sounds that satisfy. Do you want these struggles to continue to the people of your land? Living life as tactics and mind games? My belief is that the path of society is to seek civility through people's education gravitating toward knowledge, Newton rebutted. The shade of twilight mist in Kongming's psyche. By this time, it was near dusk, as the sun's last rays retreated along the rutted road, growing larger as it dipped towards the horizon. Becoming bigger and redder, the two men sat opposite each other, and as their silhouettes settled into the light of the setting sun, in the silence of the full spectrum of enlightening, people are most likely to perceive themselves within their own embodiment. Suddenly, a red-colored apple dropped from the treetops above the heads of the two men, just missing the shoulder of Kongming and making a thudding sound dong as the fruit struck the mud. Kongming. This can be regarded as one of the oracle. It is not a good omen, Kongming mumbled. Kongming's mumbling and the action of the falling apple sparked 1,000 thoughts to Newton. An apple falling downward and not upward is really a problem worth studying. I should go back to the lab and understand the reason for it. It is now quite late, and I must bid goodbye. Newton rose. Newton walked into the distance, leaving the misty figure of Kongming branded into the sky. Thus, the scientific civilization of the Western Occidental still extends deeply into the wonderful universe, leaving behind the Eastern Oriental still to ponder. Brief comment. This article is deep of meaning and symbolism. The author brings two people, Sir Isaac Newton and Zhu Kongming, from different time and space meet. Even more coincidentally, this encounter is not only the meeting of two people, but also the collision of Eastern and Western civilizations. The end of the article is just the right clues to understand the purpose, and its deep meaning is worth pondering.